Picture this. It's August 21st, 1955. The sun has just dropped below the horizon in rural Kentucky, painting the sky in shades of burnt orange and deep purple. The cicadas are starting their evening symphony. The air is thick, humid, clinging to your skin like a wet blanket. In a small farming settlement called Kelly, just outside the town of Hopkinsville, a farmhouse sits surrounded by tobacco fields. Inside, 11 people are settling in for what should be an ordinary Sunday evening. The Sutton family, the Langford family, friends and relatives gathered under one roof. But in less than an hour, that farmhouse will erupt into chaos. Gunfire will shatter the rural silence. Screams will pierce the night. 11 terrified people will barricade themselves inside, taking turns at the windows with loaded shotguns, firing at something circling the property in the darkness. Something with glowing eyes. Something that moved wrong. Something that, according to every single witness, wasn't human. By the time the night ends, police will swarm the property. Military personnel from nearby Fort Campbell will scour the fields. And the story, the impossible, terrifying story, will explode into newspapers across America, becoming one of the most documented, most witnessed, and most controversial close encounters in UFO history. 11 people, consistent testimonies, hours of terror, no bodies found, no physical evidence recovered. Just a story so disturbing, so specific, so detailed, that 70 years later, we're still trying to figure out what the hell happened on that Kentucky farm. Was it mass hysteria? A case of misidentified wildlife? Or did something genuinely unknown walk the fields of Christian County that night? Tonight, we're going deep into the Kelly-Hopkinsville incident. And I'm warning you now, this one doesn't have easy answers. Let's go back to the beginning. August 21st, 1955. Eisenhower is president. Rock around the clock is dominating the radio. The Cold War is heating up, and Americans are equal parts fascinated and terrified by the idea of things dropping from the sky. Soviet missiles, flying saucers, you name it. But none of that matters much in Kelly, Kentucky. Kelly isn't even really a town. It's a crossroads, a handful of houses scattered among farmland, connected by dirt roads and the kind of rural isolation that makes you dependent on your neighbors. The nearest real town is Hopkinsville, about 7 miles south. The Sutton farmhouse sits on a modest piece of land. It's not fancy, just a simple wooden structure with a well out back, a few outbuildings, and fields stretching in every direction. The kind of place where you can see a car coming from a mile away because there's nothing blocking your view but corn and tobacco. On this particular night, the house is more crowded than usual. Elmer "Lucky" Sutton and his wife are there. So are his brother J.C. Sutton and J.C.'s wife Aileen. Glennie Langford, the matriarch of the household, is hosting. Her sons Billy Ray and Cecil are present. There are children, too, ranging from toddlers to teenagers. All told, 11 people under one roof. It's hot. The kind of oppressive southern summer heat that makes you move slow, talk slow, think slow. Windows are open to catch any hint of a breeze. The adults are scattered between the living room and the kitchen, talking, playing cards, listening to the radio. Outside, the sun is setting, and the world is transitioning into that in-between time, not quite day, not quite night. The golden hour, photographers call it. But the Suttons and Langfords aren't thinking about photography. They're just trying to stay cool and kill time before bed. And then Billy Ray Taylor steps outside to get water from the well. Billy Ray is a young guy, early 20s, not easily spooked. He's been working farms his whole life. He knows the sounds of the night, the way animals move, the tricks shadows play when the light is fading. So when he sees something streak across the sky, he pays attention. It's not subtle. It's bright, really bright. A luminous object moving fast, leaving a trail of light behind it like a comet. It arcs over the farmhouse, over the fields, and disappears behind the tree line to the west. No sound, no explosion, just light. Billy Ray watches it vanish, his hand frozen on the well pump. For a moment, everything is quiet. The cicadas have gone silent. Even the distant dogs have stopped barking. Then the night resumes, and Billy Ray shakes his head, trying to process what he just saw. He heads back inside, water bucket in hand, and announces to the room, "I just saw a flying saucer land in the gully out back." Now, you'd think this would cause a stir, but it doesn't. The room barely reacts. Someone chuckles. Someone else tells Billy Ray to stop pulling their leg. Glennie Langford waves him off, annoyed. This is 1955, remember? Flying saucers are a tabloid thing, a joke, the kind of nonsense people see after too much moonshine. Nobody believes him. Billy Ray doesn't push it. He sets the bucket down, shrugs, and tries to shake off the unsettled feeling crawling up his spine. He doesn't know it yet, but he just saw the beginning. Because in less than an hour, something is going to come out of those woods. And it's going to walk right up to the farmhouse. Let's fast forward. It's around 8 p.m. now. Full dark. The kind of rural darkness that swallows everything. No streetlights, no neighboring houses with porch lamps, just the faint glow of kerosene lanterns inside the Sutton farmhouse and the vast, oppressive black outside. Inside, the family is still going about their evening. The younger kids are getting ready for bed. The adults are winding down. Billy Ray is sitting in the living room, still a little rattled from what he saw earlier, but trying to let it go. Then the dogs start barking. Not the normal, there's a raccoon in the trash bark. This is frantic, desperate, the kind of barking that means something is wrong. Lucky Sutton and Billy Ray exchange a glance. Without a word, they grab flashlights and step toward the back door. Now here's where you need to understand the layout of this farmhouse. The back door opens onto a small porch area, and beyond that is the yard, the well, and about 50 feet of open ground before you hit the tree line where Billy Ray saw the light disappear. Lucky pushes the door open. He steps onto the porch, Billy Ray right behind him, flashlights cutting through the darkness. And then they see it. Standing at the edge of the property, just beyond the pool of light from the house, is a figure. It's small, maybe 3.5 feet tall, like a child. But it's not a child. Not even close. The beam of Lucky's flashlight catches it full on, and for a split second, both men freeze. The thing has a humanoid shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, a head, but everything about it is wrong. The proportions are off. The limbs are too long and too thin. The head is too large for the body, almost bulbous. And the skin, if you can even call it skin, is reflective, metallic, shimmering in the flashlight beam like polished chrome. But it's the eyes that lock them in place. Huge, round, glowing yellow-green, like an animal's eyes caught in headlights, but brighter, more intense. They don't blink. They don't move. They just stare. For a heartbeat, nobody moves. The men, the creature. Time itself seems to hold its breath. And then the thing raises one of its arms. It's a slow, deliberate motion, and the arm is tipped with long, claw-like fingers, 3 or 4 of them, depending on who you ask later, that flex and curl. That breaks the spell. Get the guns. Lucky hisses. Lucky Sutton is not a man prone to panic. He's a Korean War veteran, a farmer, someone who's seen and handled dangerous situations before. But as he backs into the house, his hands are shaking. Billy Ray slams the door behind them. "What was it?" someone asks, voice tight with fear. "I don't know," Lucky says, "but it's not leaving." He crosses to the corner where they keep the shotguns. In rural Kentucky in 1955, having firearms in the house is as normal as having a stove. These aren't for show. They're tools used for hunting, for protecting livestock from predators. Tonight, they're going to be used for something else. Lucky grabs a 12 gauge. Billy Ray takes a .22 rifle. They check the loads, hands moving on autopilot, muscle memory taking over even as their minds race. "What are you doing?" Glennie demands. "You can't just shoot at." "It's on the porch," Billy Ray interrupts, his voice breaking. And it is. Through the window they can see movement. A shadow. That same small, metallic figure is now standing just outside the back door, silhouetted against the faint starlight. It's not hiding. It's not running. It's just standing there, like it's waiting for them to come back out. Lucky moves to the window, raises the shotgun, and without hesitation, fires through the screen. The blast is deafening in the confined space of the farmhouse. The buckshot shreds the screen, tears into the wooden door frame, and catches the figure square in the center mass. At this range, a shotgun loaded with buckshot will drop a deer. It'll punch through a coyote like paper. It should obliterate anything 3.5 feet tall. But the creature doesn't fall. It does something worse. It flips backward, like someone hit with a massive force, cartwheeling through the air, and then it's gone, vanished into the darkness beyond the porch light. "Did you get it?" JC asks, moving up beside Lucky, his own rifle ready. "I hit it," Lucky says, breathing hard. "I know I hit it." They wait. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. Then, from the side of the house, they hear a sound. A soft scraping like claws on wood. Something is climbing the outside wall. This is where the night goes from strange to impossible. Because what happens next isn't one encounter. It's not one sighting, one creature, one moment of confusion. It's hours of sustained, repeated contact. Over the next 3 to 4 hours, the family will see the creatures, plural because there's definitely more than one now, again and again and again. They'll appear at windows, on the roof, in the yard, at the tree line, and every time the men will shoot. Let me walk you through it, moment by moment, because this is where the Kelly-Hopkinsville incident earns its reputation. Someone hears scratching above the kitchen. Everyone looks up. There are footsteps, light, quick, moving across the tin roof like a cat, but heavier than a cat. Deliberate. Lucky and Billy Ray rush outside, flashlights and guns raised, and scan the roofline. There, silhouetted against the stars, crouched at the roof's edge, is one of the figures. Its oversized head is tilted, and those glowing eyes are locked onto the men below. Billy Ray raises the .22 and fires. The crack echoes across the empty fields. The creature jerks, not like it's been hit, but like it's been pushed, and tumbles off the roof. It lands in the dirt with a sound like something metallic hitting the ground. But when Lucky rushes over with the flashlight, there's nothing there. Just a small depression in the dust, and scratch marks leading toward the barn. Eileen Sutton is standing in the kitchen, trying to keep the kids calm. When she sees movement outside the window, she turns, expecting to see Lucky or Billy Ray. Instead, she's face to face with one of the creatures, inches away, separated only by the glass. It's looking at her. The eyes are enormous up close, taking up half the face, and they have an unnatural luminosity, glowing from within. The skin, metallic, silvery, seems to shift in the dim light, and the mouth, if you can call it that, is a thin line, expressionless. Eileen screams. Lucky spins and fires the shotgun through the window. Glass explodes. The creature lurches backward and disappears. When they check outside, they find buckshot embedded in the wooden siding. But no blood, no body, no evidence the thing was ever there except the shattered window. JC Sutton is watching the fields through the front window when he sees movement in the tree line. Several shapes, darting between the shadows, moving in a way that doesn't match any animal he's ever seen. They're fast, but not in a running way. It's more like they glide, or hop, covering ground in strange, jerky bursts. He counts 3, maybe 4. They're circling the house, he says quietly. Lucky joins him at the window. Together, they watch as the shapes move closer, stopping just at the edge of the light. "Why aren't they running?" JC asks. "We've shot at them a dozen times." "I don't know," Lucky says, "but I'm not letting them get any closer." He steps onto the porch, raises the shotgun, and empties both barrels into the tree line. The muzzle flash lights up the night, and for a split second, they see one of the creatures clearly. Arms raised above its head, claws spread wide, glowing eyes reflecting the light. Then it's gone, and the darkness rushes back in. By now, the family is in full survival mode. The children are huddled in the back bedroom, crying, being shushed by Glennie, who is doing her best to keep everyone calm even though her hands won't stop shaking. The men take turns at the windows and doors, reloading, watching, waiting. Nobody knows what these things are. Nobody knows what they want. But one thing is becoming horrifyingly clear. They're not leaving, and bullets don't seem to stop them. "We need to get out of here," Eileen says, her voice tight. "We need to leave. Now." And go where? Lucky snaps. We're 7 miles from town on dirt roads with no streetlights. You want to drive through the fields with those things out there? We can't stay here. We don't have a choice. Billy Ray is pacing, rifle in hand, eyes darting between the windows. Why aren't they attacking? He mutters. They're just watching, like they're waiting for something. Waiting for what? JC asks. Nobody answers, because nobody knows. This is the worst part of the night. The creatures keep coming. They appear at the barn, at the well, at the edge of the porch, always just outside the range of the lantern light, always moving in that strange, unnatural way. The men fire whenever they see movement. They're burning through ammunition, and the house smells like gunpowder and fear. At one point, Lucky swears he sees one of the creatures reach out and touch the side of the house, like it's testing the structure, trying to figure out what it is. At another point, Billy Ray sees one standing upright in the middle of the yard, arms at its sides, just standing there, completely motionless, staring at the house. He fires. The creature topples backward. But seconds later, it's upright again, moving toward the barn. They're not alive, Billy Ray says, voice hollow. They can't be. Nothing survives this many hits. Then what the hell are they? JC demands. No one has an answer. Finally, around 11 p.m., Lucky makes the call. We're leaving, he says. All of us. Right now. We get in the cars and we drive straight to Hopkinsville. We get the police. What if they follow us? Aline asks. Then they follow us. But we're not staying here. There's no argument. Everyone is exhausted, terrified, running on adrenaline and prayer. They gather the children, grab what they can carry, and make a plan. Lucky and Billy Ray will go out first, guns ready, and clear a path to the vehicles. Everyone else follows, fast and quiet. Lucky takes a breath, checks the shotgun one more time, and pushes open the front door. The night is silent. No movement, no glowing eyes, nothing. Go, he whispers. They run. 11 people sprint across the yard to the 2 vehicles parked near the road. A truck and a car. Doors fly open. Kids are shoved inside. Engines roar to life. And just as the headlights snap on, illuminating the dirt driveway, Lucky sees it. Standing at the edge of the property, barely visible in the light, is one of the creatures. It's not moving, not running, not attacking. It's just watching them leave. Lucky guns the engine, and the vehicles tear down the dirt road, kicking up dust, leaving the farmhouse, and whatever was out there, behind. The Christian County Sheriff's Office in Hopkinsville is not a busy place. On a typical Sunday night, you might get a drunk and disorderly call, maybe a domestic dispute, but mostly it's quiet. The deputies are used to long, boring shifts where the most exciting thing is logging a speeding ticket. So when 2 cars screech to a halt outside the station just after 11 p.m., and 11 people, men, women, children, pour out, all of them talking at once, all of them clearly terrified, the deputies on duty have no idea what to make of it. Sheriff Russell Greenwell is at his desk when the commotion starts. He steps out of his office and is immediately swarmed. Sheriff, you've got to come with us. There's something at the farm. We shot at them, but they wouldn't go down. Slow down, Greenwell says, holding up his hands, one at a time. What happened? Lucky Sutton steps forward. He's the calmest of the group, but even he looks rattled. Face pale, hands still trembling slightly. Sheriff, I know how this is going to sound, he says, but something attacked our farm tonight. We don't know what it was, but it wasn't human. It wasn't an animal. We shot at it multiple times, and it didn't die. Greenwell studies him. Lucky isn't drunk. He's not laughing. He's dead serious. What do you mean, not human? Greenwell asks carefully. I mean, it had glowing eyes and silver skin, and it moved wrong, Lucky says. I mean, we hit it with buckshot at close range, and it just got back up. Greenwell looks past Lucky at the others. They're nodding, backing him up. The women are crying. The kids look traumatized. This isn't a prank. How many of you saw this? Greenwell asks. Every single hand goes up. 11 people. all claiming the same impossible story. Greenwell takes a breath. All right, we'll check it out. But if this is some kind of joke. It's not, Lucky says flatly. You'll see. Within 20 minutes, a convoy is assembled. Sheriff Greenwell, 3 deputies, a state trooper, and several volunteers. Local men who grabbed rifles and decided to tag along. All pile into vehicles and follow the Sutton family back toward Kelly. It's close to midnight now. The rural roads are pitch black, the headlights cutting narrow tunnels through the darkness. Nobody talks much. The deputies are skeptical but cautious. The volunteers are curious, maybe a little excited. The Sutton family is silent, dreading what they might find when they get back. As they approach the farmhouse, Greenwell slows the convoy and cuts the lights. Everyone stay in the vehicles until we know what we're dealing with, he orders. The deputies step out first, flashlights and sidearms drawn. They approach the house slowly, scanning the yard, the barn, the tree line. Everything is quiet. Too quiet. One of the deputies notices the shattered windows, the bullet holes in the siding, the spent shell casings littering the porch. Jesus Christ, he mutters. They weren't kidding. Someone was definitely shooting. Greenwell joins him, shining his flashlight through the broken window into the kitchen. Inside, the house is a mess. Overturned chairs, scattered belongings, the unmistakable signs of panicked flight. All right, Greenwell says. Let's search the property. I want every building checked, every field within 100 yards. If something was out here, I want to know what it was. For the next hour, the search party combs the property. They check the barn, the outbuildings, the well, the tree line. They walk the fields with flashlights and lanterns, calling out, looking for tracks, blood, bodies, anything that would explain what happened. And they find nothing. No creatures, no bodies, no physical evidence that anything unusual was here. There are the shell casings, yes. There are the bullet holes, yes. But no blood, no fur, no tracks that don't belong to the family or their dogs. One deputy does find something odd near the barn. A strange set of marks in the dirt, almost like claw prints, but the spacing is wrong, and they don't match any animal he knows. But that's it. That's all they've got. Greenwell interviews the family again, this time individually, trying to catch inconsistencies. But there aren't any. Every person tells the same story, same descriptions, same timeline. The details match too well to be fabricated on the fly. Sheriff, one of the deputies says quietly, pulling Greenwell aside. I don't think they're lying. I don't either, Greenwell admits. But I also don't know what the hell they saw. Here's where things get even more interesting. Fort Campbell is a major U.S. Army installation located just a few miles from Hopkinsville. In 1955, it's home to the 101st Airborne Division, and it's a hub of military activity. When word of the Kelly incident reaches the base, either through police channels or local gossip, the military decides to send personnel to investigate. This isn't official policy. There's no formal order. But given the Cold War paranoia of the era, and the fact that this incident involves multiple witnesses reporting something unknown, someone at Fort Campbell decides it's worth checking out. A small team of soldiers is dispatched to the Sutton farm the next day. They bring equipment, portable lights, cameras, surveying tools. They interview the family. They walk the property, taking measurements, looking for radiation, checking for anything unusual. And just like the sheriff's search, they find nothing conclusive. But here's what they do find: physical evidence of the panic. The house is riddled with bullet holes. The screens are torn. The windows are shattered. Whatever happened, it was violent, sustained, and terrifying enough to make a group of adults and children fire over 50 rounds of ammunition in a few hours. That's not nothing. The military files a report. It eventually makes its way to Project Blue Book, the Air Force's official UFO investigation program. But at the scene, the soldiers are just as baffled as everyone else. What do you think it was? One of the family members asks a soldier. The soldier shakes his head. I honestly have no idea. By August 22nd, less than 24 hours after the incident, The story has leaked. A reporter from the Kentucky New Era gets wind of it and shows up at the farm. Then another. Then the wire services pick it up. By the end of the day, the Kelly-Hopkinsville incident is national news. The headlines are sensational. Mysterious creatures terrorize Kentucky family. 11 witnesses report siege by unknown beings. Flying saucer occupants attack farmhouse. The press eats it up. Tabloids run wild with illustrations of bug-eyed monsters. Legitimate newspapers treat it more cautiously, but even they can't ignore the fact that 11 people, including a war veteran, are sticking to their story. Reporters swarm Hopkinsville. They interview the family, the sheriff, the neighbors. Photographers snap pictures of the bullet-riddled farmhouse. And the Sutton family? They hate every second of it. They're not looking for fame. They're not trying to sell a book or get on television. They're farmers, private people, and now they're the center of a media circus. "We didn't ask for this," Lucky tells one reporter. "We just want to be left alone." But the story has taken on a life of its own. Not everyone believes them, of course. Plenty of people, locally and nationally, think the whole thing is a hoax, a misunderstanding, or the result of too much moonshine. Probably just spooked themselves with shadows and owls, one editorial suggests. Mass hysteria brought on by Cold War fears. Another proposes. The family faces ridicule. Neighbors gossip. Kids at school make fun of the Sutton children. The farm becomes a curiosity, with people driving out just to gawk at the flying saucer house. It's humiliating, and it's one of the reasons the family, years later, largely refuses to talk about what happened. They're tired of being laughed at, tired of being dismissed, but they never recant. Every single one of them, for the rest of their lives, insists that what they saw was real. Now let's talk about Project Blue Book. For those who don't know, Project Blue Book was the U.S. Air Force's official program for investigating UFO sightings, running from 1952 to 1969. Its goal was to determine whether UFOs posed a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO data. Most of the cases Blue Book investigated were easily explained, weather balloons, aircraft, Venus, swamp gas. But a small percentage remained unidentified. The Kelly-Hopkinsville case lands on their desk in late 1955. And it's a problem, because here's the thing. Blue Book's mandate is to explain sightings, to debunk them if possible, to reassure the public that there's nothing to worry about. But Kelly-Hopkinsville doesn't fit the usual patterns. Multiple witnesses? Check. Close-range sighting? Check. Physical interaction? The shooting? Check. No easy explanation? Also check. The Blue Book investigators review the sheriff's report, the military report, and the press coverage. They note the consistency of the testimonies and the lack of obvious motive for a hoax. And then they do what Blue Book often does when stumped. They leave it unidentified in the official records, but they offer a suggested explanation in their internal notes. In this case, misidentified wildlife. Specifically, great horned owls. Alright, let's break down the owl theory because it's the most popular skeptical explanation, and to be fair, it's not entirely ridiculous. Great horned owls are native to Kentucky. They're large, up to 2 feet tall with a 4-foot wingspan. They hunt at dusk and night. They have enormous, reflective eyes that glow yellow-green in artificial light. They can be aggressive, especially if defending a nest. And here's the key. If you've never seen an owl up close, especially at night, they can look deeply unsettling. The way they move, silent flight, sudden head rotations, can seem unnatural. Their eyes are disproportionately large for their bodies. And when perched in a tree or on a roof, silhouetted against the night sky, they can look vaguely humanoid. So the theory goes like this. Billy Ray Taylor sees a meteor or bright light, priming the group for something unusual. Later, one or more owls, maybe a mating pair or a family group, are active around the farm. Someone sees one in the yard and, in the darkness and confusion, misidentifies it as something strange. Fear spreads. Adrenaline kicks in. The group starts shooting. The owls, startled by the noise and gunfire, fly erratically, landing and taking off in quick bursts. creating the impression of multiple creatures moving around the property. The glowing eyes are just owl eyes reflecting the flashlights. The metallic skin is feathers catching the light. The jerky movements are typical owl behavior. And the reason they don't die when shot? Because the witnesses are missing, firing wildly in the dark at fast-moving targets. It's a neat explanation. It accounts for most of the visual details. It explains why no bodies were found. But does it hold up? Here's where the owl theory starts to unravel. Problem number 1. The shape. Yes, owls can look strange at night, but the witnesses describe something humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs, a distinct torso and head. Even accounting for panic and misperception, it's hard to confuse a bird, no matter how large, with a bipedal figure. Problem number 2. The movement. Owls fly. They don't walk on the ground. They don't climb walls. They don't stand upright in the middle of a yard. Multiple witnesses described the creatures walking, moving across the ground, even climbing the side of the house. That's not owl behavior. Problem number 3. The duration. This wasn't a 1-minute encounter. This was hours of sustained sightings. Multiple creatures. Multiple locations. For the owl theory to work, you'd need a coordinated group of owls, repeatedly returning to a farmhouse despite being fired upon, behaving in ways completely inconsistent with their normal patterns. Problem number 4. The consistency. 11 people, all describing the same thing. Independently interviewed. Their stories match. Yes, group dynamics can influence perception, but the level of detail, the clawed hands, the oversized heads, the glowing eyes, suggests more than just, "We saw something weird." Alright, so if it's not owls, what else could it be? Theory number 2, atmospheric phenomena. Some researchers have suggested ball lightning or other rare atmospheric events could explain the initial light Billy Ray saw. Ball lightning is real, but poorly understood, glowing spheres of plasma that can appear during storms or even clear weather. Could ball lightning have sparked the initial sighting, and then fear and suggestion filled in the rest? Maybe, but that doesn't explain the physical figures in the yard. Theory number 3, mass hysteria/collective misperception. This is a popular psychological explanation. The idea is that one person, Billy Ray, sees something unusual, plants the idea of visitors in the group's mind, and then fear and adrenaline cause everyone to misinterpret normal stimuli. It's possible. Groups can influence each other, especially in high-stress situations. But again, the level of detail and consistency is unusual for mass hysteria. And the witnesses weren't suggestible city folks. They were experienced farmers who knew their land, their animals, and what belonged in the night. Theory number 4, hoax. Could the family have made it up? Sheriff Greenwell didn't think so. The military didn't think so. And the family themselves gained nothing from the incident. No book deals, no money, just ridicule and unwanted attention. Plus, the physical evidence, the bullet holes, the spent shells, the shattered windows, proves that something scared them badly enough to fire over 50 rounds. You don't shoot up your own house as a prank. Theory number 5, something unknown. And then there's the possibility that the witnesses saw exactly what they claimed. Something genuinely unknown. Not necessarily aliens from another planet, but something that doesn't fit into our current understanding of the natural world. Is that likely? No. Is it possible? Well, that's the question, isn't it? Fast forward a few decades. The Kelly-Hopkinsville Incident, after fading from national headlines, becomes something else. A local legend. Hopkinsville and Christian County eventually embraced the story. They realized that, hoax or not, misperception or not, they're sitting on a piece of American folklore that people find fascinating. In the 1990s, the town starts hosting an annual Kelly Little Green Men Days festival. There are costume contests, UFO-themed vendors, guest speakers, and reenactments. The creatures, once terrifying, become mascots. Cute, big-eyed aliens adorn murals and welcome signs. It's tourism. It's fun. It's a way to bring visitors to a small town that doesn't have much else in the way of attractions. And honestly, there's something kind of charming about it. The town isn't mocking the witnesses. They're celebrating a weird piece of history that put them on the map. But it does raise an interesting question. When a traumatic event becomes a tourist attraction, what gets lost in translation? In the world of UFO research, the Kelly-Hopkinsville case holds a special place. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the astronomer who consulted for Project Blue Book and later became a legitimate UFO researcher, developed a classification system for encounters. You've probably heard of it because of Spielberg's movie. Close encounter of the first kind, CI sighting of a UFO within 500 feet. Close encounter of the second kind, C2 physical effects, burn marks, radiation, interference with electronics. Close encounter of the third kind, C3 observation of animate beings associated with the craft. Kelly-Hopkinsville is a textbook CE3. Hynek himself was fascinated by the case. He noted the number of witnesses, the duration, the consistency, and the lack of obvious motivation for deception. He didn't conclude it was extraterrestrial, but he did conclude it was genuinely anomalous, something that didn't fit neatly into conventional explanations. And that matters, because Hynek was a skeptic by nature. He spent years debunking UFO cases for the Air Force. When he said something was strange, he meant it. 70 years later, the debate continues. On one side, you have the believers, ufologists, researchers, and ordinary people who think the witnesses saw something genuinely unknown. They point to the consistency, the number of witnesses, the lack of motive, and the failure of conventional explanations to fully account for the details. On the other side, you have the skeptics, scientists, debunkers, and rational thinkers who argue that humans are fallible, perception is unreliable, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. They point to the owl theory, mass hysteria, and the lack of physical proof. Both sides make good points, and both sides, frankly, are operating on incomplete information. Because here's the thing, we don't have all the answers. We don't have photos. We don't have bodies. We don't have DNA or footprints or any physical evidence that would settle the debate. All we have are witness accounts. And witness accounts, no matter how consistent, no matter how sincere, are not proof. They're data. They're starting points. But they're not definitive. So where does that leave us? Let's look at the facts we know are true. On August 21st, 1955, something happened at the Sutton Farm in Kelly, Kentucky. 11 people witnessed it. They were scared enough to fire over 50 rounds of ammunition. Local law enforcement and military personnel investigated and found no conventional explanation. The witnesses never recanted and gained nothing from the publicity. Those facts are solid. They're documented. They're not in dispute. What we don't know is what the witnesses actually saw. Was it owls? Maybe, but the owl theory has holes. Was it mass hysteria? Possibly, but the evidence doesn't fully support it. Was it something unknown? We can't rule it out. And that's what makes the Kelly-Hopkinsville case so compelling. It's not just a story. It's a mystery that asks us to weigh evidence, consider human perception, and confront the limits of what we know. All right, let's step back and talk methodology. Because whether you believe the Kelly-Hopkinsville witnesses or not, the case offers a valuable lesson in how to evaluate extraordinary claims. Here's a framework. Step 1. Check for consistency. Do the witnesses tell the same story when interviewed separately? Do their accounts match in key details? Or do they contradict each other? In Kelly-Hopkinsville, the consistency is strong. That's a point in favor of credibility. Step 2. Look for motive. Did the witnesses have something to gain? Money? Fame? Tension? In this case, the answer is no. The family hated the publicity. That's another point in their favor. Step 3. Consider environmental factors. What were the conditions? Darkness? Stress? Fatigue? All of these can affect perception. In Kelly-Hopkinsville, it was dark, the witnesses were scared, and adrenaline was high. That's a point against reliability. Step 4. Compare to known phenomena. Could the sighting be explained by something mundane? Whether animals, aircraft? The owl theory attempts this. It's plausible but incomplete. Step 5. Demand physical evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Are there photos? Physical traces? Bodies? In Kelly-Hopkinsville, the answer is no. That's a major gap. Step 6. Be willing to say, I don't know. This is the hardest step. Because we want answers. We want closure. We want to know what happened. But sometimes, the most honest answer is, I don't know. And that's okay. Here's something we need to talk about. How fear changes perception. When you're scared, your brain does strange things. It amplifies threats, fills in gaps, creates patterns where none exist. This is evolutionary. Our ancestors who assumed the rustling bush was a predator and ran survived longer than those who assumed it was wind and got eaten. But it also means that in moments of extreme stress, our brains can lie to us. A shadow becomes a figure. A sound becomes a footstep. An owl becomes a creature from another world. Does that mean the Kelly-Hopkinsville witnesses were lying? No, but it does mean they might have been wrong, sincerely, genuinely, terrifyingly wrong. And that's not an insult. That's just human nature. Let's also consider the time and place. 1955 America was obsessed with flying saucers. The War of the Worlds radio broadcast was still in living memory. Science fiction movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Invaders from Mars were playing in theaters. The Cold War had people scanning the skies for Soviet threats. This was the cultural water the Kelly-Hopkinsville witnesses were swimming in. Does that mean they invented the story? No, but it might mean their brains, when faced with something ambiguous, reached for the most culturally available explanation. Visitors from the sky. Context matters. So here we are, 70 years later, still asking the same questions. What did the witnesses see? Were they credible? Can we ever know for sure? The Kelly-Hopkinsville incident remains unresolved. Not because people haven't tried to solve it, they have, but because the evidence is ambiguous, the explanations are incomplete, and the truth, whatever it is, remains elusive. And maybe that's okay. Maybe some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Maybe their value isn't in the answer, but in the asking. Because the Kelly-Hopkinsville case forces us to grapple with uncomfortable questions. How reliable are our senses? How much do we trust our own minds? What do we do when faced with something we can't explain? Here's my take, for what it's worth. I don't think the witnesses were lying. I think they experienced something that terrified them, something they genuinely couldn't explain. I also don't think we have enough evidence to conclude they saw extraterrestrial beings. The owl theory is plausible, but it doesn't explain everything. Mass hysteria is possible, but the consistency argues against it. So where does that leave me? In the middle, I think the Kelly-Hopkinsville case is a reminder that the world is stranger and more complex than we often give it credit for. I think it's a reminder that humans are fallible, perception is tricky, and sometimes we just don't know. And I think that's a perfectly valid place to land. Why are we still talking about the Kelly-Hopkinsville incident? Because it's more than just a UFO story. It's a story about fear, about perception, about how we navigate the unknown. It's a story about a family that saw something, and had the courage to report it, even knowing they'd be ridiculed. It's a story about a community that searched for answers and came up empty. It's a story about the limits of knowledge and the persistence of mystery. And in a world that increasingly demands certainty, that increasingly divides us into believers and skeptics, the Kelly-Hopkinsville case offers a different path. The path of humility, the acknowledgement that we don't have all the answers, the willingness to sit with uncertainty and say, I don't know, but I'm willing to keep asking. On a warm August night in 1955, something happened on a Kentucky farm. 11 people lived through hours of terror. They fired over 50 rounds of ammunition at something they couldn't explain. They reported it to the authorities, endured a media circus, and spent the rest of their lives defending their story. Were they right? Were they wrong? Were they misled by fear and darkness? Or did they witness something genuinely unknown? 70 years later, we still don't have a definitive answer. And maybe that's the point. The Kelly-Hopkinsville incident isn't just about aliens or owls or mass hysteria. It's about the human experience of confronting the inexplicable. It's about what happens when the world stops making sense, even for just one night. And it's a reminder that no matter how much we think we understand, there are still shadows at the edge of the lantern light, still questions we can't answer, still mysteries waiting in the dark. So the next time you're alone at night and you hear something outside, and your brain starts whispering that maybe, just maybe, it's something you can't explain, remember the Sutton family. Remember Kelly, Kentucky. And remember that sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones we never fully understand. If mysteries like this linger with you the way they linger with us, then subscribe. There's always another night, another story, and we'll be here when it arrives.